A quiet late-night shift at a highway cafe near Noida usually means empty tables and slow hours. Noida is a major city in northern India, located just outside New Delhi. But at 11:50 p.m., a worker walks through the doors expecting an empty room and finds every single seat taken. Every customer in the building is a different version of himself. This diagram plots the exact layout of the room. In booth 1 sits a 12-year-old in a school uniform. Booth 3 holds a stressed 19-year-old college student, and booth 5 contains a 28-year-old going through a divorce. These temporal selves are physical manifestations of past emotional trauma. The timeline extends to booth 7, occupied by the present-day worker. He is wearing the exact same uniform, typing the very account we are analyzing right now. The physical impossibility creates a logic vacuum. The mystery of how this is happening is instantly replaced by the weight of the occupants. Every person in this room represents a specific year where the narrator stopped trying. A seemingly normal waitress approaches and tells the narrator his usual table is ready. Since he doesn't actually have a usual table, this forces him out of his familiar routine and guides him directly into the only empty seat left in the building, booth 9. He is served black coffee by a 40-year-old man with graying temples and a jagged scar on his left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. This is biological proof that the server is a future iteration of the narrator. The server outlines the strict mechanics of the space. The diner collects exactly one version of the narrator for every single year he completely gave up on himself. The 12-year-old is crying. The 19-year-old stares at failed exams. The 28-year-old argues over divorce papers. Every occupied table serves as an isolated monument to a specific personal failure. To keep these versions pacified, the diner serves highly targeted meals. The 12-year-old eats his mother's Maggi, a popular brand of instant noodles heavily associated with childhood comfort in India. Meanwhile, the waitress brings the narrator his grandmother's exact aloo paratha, a traditional flatbread stuffed with spiced potatoes. The construct uses maternal comfort and intense nostalgia to sedate their trauma. Then the older server delivers an ultimatum. He states that the narrator is the last one. The diner only manifests these temporal selves on the exact night the final, present-day version is about to completely break. By sitting in booth 9, the narrator has entered the system's final phase, a mechanism that replaces his future with a static loop of the past the moment he surrenders to the offered comfort. Time is actively running out. The clinical logic of the room breaks down as the chronological timeline begins to physically collapse. This diagram shows the exact moment the anomaly accelerates. The present-day version sitting in booth 7 suddenly vanishes entirely. On the same blueprint, the map isolates booth 9, the only seat left. The narrator is physically and psychologically cornered into this unavoidable final stage. The 12-year-old looks over with tears in his eyes and says, "It's okay, we tried." It provides a horrific kind of emotional closure, marking the precise moment the narrator stops fighting the trap and begins to accept his fate. The narrator chooses to stay in the booth and document his panic on his phone instead of walking out the front door. Continuing to type the post is the physical manifestation of him giving up. His reliance on recording his trauma becomes the exact mechanism that seals his fate. By pausing to cry for help online, he turns his own coping mechanism into the final lock on the diner's door. 11 minutes later, the narrator posts a final update. The frantic panic burns out, replaced by a heavy, defeated rhythm as the trap finishes its work. The 40-year-old server sits down directly across from him. In his hands, he holds an identical smartphone, confirming the inescapable nature of this construct. The server smiles and tells him, "You always post this, every time." That single sentence proves this exact breakdown has already happened countless times before in a permanent, locked loop. As he types the final words of the update, a real-time physical transformation occurs. The narrator notes that his fingers are starting to feel older, literally aging into the calloused hands of the 40-year-old server sitting across from him. Once the transition is complete, the final rule of the establishment displays on screen. Booth 9 is always reserved for the last one. The narrator's choice to document the trauma instead of leaving the building completes the cycle.
He doesn't just witness the older server, he becomes the next iteration, forever tending to the versions of himself that gave up.